So we're going to talk today about how entrepreneurship is lonely as hell. Like the loneliness of being a founder or an executive. And it is not loneliness in this very direct way of like you have no one around you. It's the exact opposite, right? You have everybody around you. So it cannot be just sheer proximity. In fact, there's an element of where this access and proximity to you enhances the loneliness, makes it worse. And so I want to talk about that because really I see loneliness in the founder is really down to having a place where you can't tell the full truth, right? So I don't have huge plans in order and all this sort of stuff. This might be one of those more yap style videos. But having been a very lonely founder for a long, long time, to the point where I was running an agency, right? And we were getting to be pretty successful. We were approaching, 2 million ARR. And I looked at my LinkedIn after burning out a couple of times in the year 2022, like super bad, thought I was going to die type stuff. And anxiety is a hell of a thing. But doing that and looking at LinkedIn and being like, wow, I've had more clients than I have followers and connections on LinkedIn. And what that indicated to me was just this really just, I was in this bubble, right? It was every cliche you can imagine, forest through the trees. It was, well, I'm struggling to think of any other cliches right now. We're halfway down on the coffee. We need a full coffee for more cliches. But the point of it is I was actually surrounded by people. It was just in this very like isolated, siloed feeling to where I felt really misunderstood by everyone in my immediate proximity. And so that's kind of one of the first places I want to start because I deem entrepreneurship being lonely and being a founder particularly as lonely, especially in the first, I would say 3 years guaranteed, typically like even years up to four, five, six. And we can talk about that too, of how the loneliness is different once you get past like the 3 year hump. But the first one is if you don't feel like you can fully trust other people with the full story, let's just kind of talk about if you have a significant other, if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, whatever it may be, there are elements where you can tell them the full story, but most of the time there's going to be something withheld. And what does that really come from? It comes from a couple of things. One, and I know I felt this deeply, going back to before I even was an entrepreneur, where I had difficult jobs and that sort of stuff, is you don't want to be burdening your partner with what you're going through because there, especially as men, I know I can't speak to women because I've never been a woman, but especially as a man, I can say that you are of this, you're kind of placed into this spot mentally. And of course, it's just something we subscribe to. We don't actually need to be here. It's just very easy to fall into this trap of feeling like, no, I have to be the one who has it put together. I have to be the one who stays strong. I have to be the rock. I have to do all these things. And so while a lot of that is kind of bullshit, honestly, there are elements of truth to it like anything else in shades of gray. But a lot of it is really just kind of comes down to, okay, cool. Well, then whatever I'm going through, I'm not going to express the full detail of that. I might mention some things to my partner. I might tell them I just need a bit of quiet time. Like what a lot of guys do, especially my age, just because we kind of came up with video games and sports and all that sort of stuff, is I know so many guys who will just go golfing, right? They'll just go golfing, and it's kind of this form of escape. For me, I don't really deem golfing as the escape I want, so I might play video games, or I might go for a walk, or I might do that kind of stuff. And all of these things are just ways we process, right? And so you're I hope for you that your partner or your spouse is someone you can trust with more than anything else, right? The most important decision you'll likely ever make if you decide to choose a life partner is choosing your life partner. Um, so to not be able to share the full truth, why is that? Many times, one is the burden, right? Another one is very often my spouse, for instance, is in healthcare. She's not an entrepreneur. And so a lot of the problems I could bring to her will be things that won't go past like the whole I believe in you, I trust you, you got this, all that sort of stuff. There's really not a lot of specificity that goes beyond that, as in she couldn't possibly understand the true problem because she's not experiencing the true problem, right? And so there's that element of loneliness too, of where like, who can I share this information with? Because even the person I trust the most isn't going to actually be able to help me kind of unravel this messy ball of yarn inside my head, right? They're not supposed to understand the full problem, right? And so what we end up doing, if you can't fully trust your partner or spouse, and not that you don't trust them as a human being, you just you're probably so capable and you're so like, I can figure this out, and you're probably willing to like eat a bunch of glass to stomach all the pain and the failure and the misfortune to just get through it. But that can last way longer than we want. And then the loneliness, kind of the main thing we don't want to happen is, does this loneliness turn into despair, right? So you're probably not going to fulfill that with your partner or spouse unless they are an entrepreneur like you, and unless they are really good at compartmentalizing, because if they're an entrepreneur like you, they're going through their own shit as well. And so chances are it's just going to be a big pile of mess rather than a super calm situation, right? So can you trust your partner, your spouse, whatever? Of course you can. There's a reason you don't want to burden them. The next kind of reason I find entrepreneurship is lonely, and I really, really experienced this too, was there's such this element of needing, how do I want to put this? I encounter a lot every week, and I was this person for a really, really long time. And so that's why I think it's so visceral to me, where everything somebody may be doing throughout their week, an entrepreneur, founder may be doing, is needing something. And that is a really desperate and lonely place to be, because then you won't reach out to somebody unless you think you can close them, or then you won't reach out to somebody unless you think that they can refer you to somebody. Then you won't, do a social post unless you are pitching directly, and so you think you can get something back. Like there are so many different elements of this, and a lot of it is psychological and kind of emotional and that kind of thing. But just, I cannot tell you how much less lonely I felt when I just started talking with somebody to talk, right? When I just started spending time with someone, whether they were further ahead, further behind, or right in line with me, and not needing something from them other than just having that experience with them, to learn about their life, to ask them questions about their family. One of my favorite questions I ask strangers is like, what lights you up right now, right? Because I want to hear what it is that's getting them out of bed. I want to hear what it is that is challenging them. But even though they've hit the brick wall over and over and over again, they still keep attacking the thing because it lights them up. The idea of solving it, or just the work itself. And I find that I was so lonely when I was in the marketing world and had an agency, when I was looking at every conversation where, man, I just need this to be over. If I, was somebody I didn't enjoy, or man, I need this person to pay me, otherwise it's not worth my time. Or if I'm going to do a marketing effort, man, I need this to be super polished and sound great, and destroy this competitor and this competitor and this competitor. Like, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out of the hat. Like, I can't even fully voice the exact thoughts I had in those moments, because I say this to clients a lot, like, you have a messy ball of yarn inside your head. You know that if you pull on the right string, it'll unravel the rest. In my mind, I had like 12 messy balls of yarn, and I had no idea which string to pull on, nor should I have had that many balls of yarn to begin with, because it was just saying yes to everything, going into things emotionally, trying to prove myself, chip on the shoulder. Hey, look at me. I work so hard. Like, just ego in all the wrong directions, effort in all the wrong directions, constantly doing things over and over again that I should have passed off a long time ago, for the whole sake of, I'm the only one who can do it this well. And this may not all seem crazy related to loneliness, but I promise you, they all just kind of stacked up for me. It was all very much just like, I'm feeling lonelier than ever because nobody understands how hard I'm working. Or I feel lonelier than ever because I keep having the same fucking problem and I have too much pride to ask for help. And so I'm just going to keep beating my head against the wall until hopefully this problem disappears or I actually, have an epiphany and solve the thing, right? And a lot of people I encounter every week, it is, hey, we've been stuck at this revenue number for a long, long time. And we've tried this, and this. And I know it sounds crazy, but I will tell you, when you stop needing so much, either that number is going to be seen in a different light, or you will actually have just created space to where, oh, I don't need A to turn to B, where you can just be like, I am comfortable with A, and then discovering what happens after that. It might not be B, it might be F or W. Like, that's fine. I'm not going to rush that, and I'm not going to prescribe that, and I'm not going to need a specific thing from it. When you can just be like, I am going to take the action that feels right to me right now, and then I'm going to discover the outcome rather than pigeonhole and need the specific outcome, things just happen much quicker. And I'll give you an example, right? Of I had zero expectation of moving back to Iowa. Right now, I am sitting in my new living room in Iowa, having just moved last week. And when I grew up in Iowa, small town, farm, all that kind of stuff, and I said that I would never come back, never, right? And then I took like a 20, let's see, a 23-year detour. No, more than that. I don't know, math. Um, Basically a 20-year detour. Let's call it that. And now I'm back. And that was not part of the plan. But I can tell you almost everything with this move, from the point of we didn't even have to put our house in the old town on the market because someone else wanted to scoop it up. And so we saved a ton of money there, to where this place wasn't even listed and we found it and it's amazing, to like just a million tiny little things. Like someone gift carded us a whole bunch of stuff for groceries. So our last grocery run, we didn't pay for anything. And it's just like these little tiny things all came from, I needed to not be in Iowa again because I was like, there's nothing there for me. To where I was like, you know what? My intuition is telling me, let this go. See what happens, right? What what's what's wrong with just not trying to place every little thing in proper order and just actually experience it for a second? And I got to tell you, everything with this has felt easy as hell. And easy is not the goal. I'm just saying, like, I to rope it back to loneliness, I felt cared for. I felt supported. I was kind of in that woo-woo phase where I'm like, good Lord, the world is conspiring in my favor, not against me. And the more and more I let go, the more and more it feels like it's providing for me. And so to take this point and loop it way back is that I think it just, a lot of loneliness comes from a lot of little tiny things where you need something. And I can just tell you, not only in my life, but now I'm working with clients one on one in a room that they can fully trust, right? Because I have been where they've been. I let them vent. I ask a ton of questions, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to give you the answer because that doesn't do you any good. I am going to tell you what you told me in a different way and then ask a question. And they're like, ah, fuck that, duh, that. And it is because trust is fully there that they know exactly what to do next. But a lot of one of the things, or that's a fun sentence, a lot of one of the things, a lot of times, whatever move they're going to make next often comes down to, oh, I'm going to do this first action that I believe in, and then I'm not going to need anything from it, right? So many people, especially entrepreneurs, especially struggling entrepreneurs, are making decisions based on this better fucking work, right? I'm only going to do it if I believe it's going to work. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I find that is placing emphasis on, I only do things if I know it's going to deliver on what I want, right? Whereas if you look back into your life on some of the most memorable, worthwhile, life-changing moments, how many of those moments did you need to know that it was going to be the specific thing before you got it? Almost never. And if you can find one, that's amazing. And you've manufactured some sort of mechanism where it's like, I wanted this exact thing, I got this exact thing, it went exactly as I wanted, all that it, in my experience, that doesn't happen. And you are opening yourself up for what I believe more wholesome, better, feel good outcomes if you can just do the first thing that you believe in because you believe in the thing, not because you believe it will pay you out. And so loneliness, I think, comes from that, is you are creating a lot of little expectations that might not be met because after you take the first action, everything's out of your control. You can decide on the next action, but that's about it. The only thing you can control are your choices. You can't even control your thoughts. Your subconscious will control things for you, right? So the only thing you can truly control are the choices you make. And I find so many people are trying to make the outcome choice, even though they can't control that. And so I'm really hammering on this because I just see so much misery and despair from people being like, it didn't work out the way I wanted. And I don't think that comes out from you didn't get what you wanted. I think it comes out from you needed to want the thing instead of actually saying, what do I believe to do right now? What can I only control right now? What would I do if I had to pay the ultimate cost for it and still do it anyway? And then things fall into place. It's crazy, right? And like, yeah, we'll stay there, right? So just to recap on the first thing, I think loneliness doesn't come from not having enough people, especially as a founder and entrepreneur. You have a ton of people. Loneliness comes from not having a room you can fully trust. And even with people you trust, you can't fully trust them with all of the stuff with the business and all that. Another example is you're surrounded by your employees and your staff and all that sort of stuff. The last people you want to tell on earth that you're having a hard time or whatever is your staff. The amount of people I've helped in my career, my very short coaching career, of just saying like, I find you get further with your staff when you tell them. You don't have to give them the full story, right? But to open up just that little wrinkle more of being like, hey, I'm not perfect and here's why. Here's something that didn't go my way. Here's what I'm going to do next. Versus what I tend to encounter before people talk to me is they are trying to look perfect in front of their staff. And that seems like the biggest fool's errand imaginable, because if there's one place something will go wrong, it is in your business as a business owner, right? And so you are not going to look perfect. And so that's an example of you can't fully trust the staff, you can't fully trust your spouse. And so, of course, that feels lonely because the amount of thoughts you're having every single day, it beats the hell out of you mentally, right? So I think, there's more to be said to this. And like I said, there wasn't a huge plan for this video, but I'm thinking of where else I felt lonely in my entrepreneurial journey and what I did to try and combat that. I think the final thing I'll give a commentary on networking after I have a sip of coffee. Is, well, I was talking with an entrepreneur last week. First time I met them, grabbed coffee and stuff, and that's what I do, right? I just grab coffee with people because it really lights me up, and yeah, I've gotten clients and stuff from it, but it's not really down to that. It's down to just curiosity, enjoying talking to people, all that kind of stuff. But they mentioned, they're in this networking group and they're in this seminar thing and they're in this mastermind thing. and that's great. They're in year 2 of their journey, and so a lot of people say, in the first couple of years, just say yes to everything, and I think that's good. Find what you like. It's kind of the same thing when you have kids, right? It's like my son's starting tennis tomorrow. He's done swimming. He's done taekwondo. These sorts of things, and you don't need to force them to stick with it, but you do want to expose them. The thing I've found with networking, whether it's one on one, whether it's in a group or whatever, I personally have felt like there's a lot of transactional stuff yet. Now, this could just be my experience, but a lot of networking groups that I've been invited to have said, you'll get business from this. We have an amazing referral network, all that sort of stuff. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't think it solves the loneliness problem. And so I would just, instead of say one's good or bad or anything like that, I would just caution that if you are feeling lonely as an entrepreneur, I don't know that going into a networking event is going to help you with that. A lot of networking events I've been to has really felt like speed dating. Everyone just does their 2-minute pitch or whatever. They all follow each other on LinkedIn, and then nothing comes from that. And I've been to a handful where I will follow up with people who I met, and I don't typically get responses back. And I think it's just because a lot of the networking events I go to, I'm not their target customer. And so, what I've learned from my experience in many ways is that I will go in there and I'll be like, hey, I can, I have an amazing network. Obviously, we're not going to get very far in 2 minutes of talking to each other because of the speed dating thing. And so, I would love to follow up with you. What do you need? Who can I help you meet? Like all that kind of stuff. And it's just, for some reason, it doesn't go very far. And so, I can tell you what really helped me get out of the loneliness thing was find more and more people who were going through the same things I was going through, who I couldn't sell, right? And who couldn't sell me. I think having that group of people is really important, um, because then it's just a little bit more pure. It's I don't need to try and find an angle in which I can say the perfect thing to make you become a client. It's, oh shit, you're going through that same thing. How did you handle it? And you don't even need the answers, right? I've referenced eating glass a couple of times. And that comes from somebody I heard say at a mastermind. He goes, I don't even care if my problem is solved. It's just nice to know that there are other people eating glass just like me. And that to me is really where the loneliness starts dissipating a little bit, because these people understand your problems. These people are going through the same things. You see how human everybody is. Um, and it's just really, really, really worthwhile. So I've been fortunate enough to find those people over the last few years. And yeah, I haven't felt lonely since those people started coming into my circle. So we got to wrap this at some point. What I will say when it comes to loneliness, I think it comes down to basically one one to two things. One is just like, can you find the place where you can tell the full story with full trust, right? Um, for a lot of people, I have found that masterminds get them some of the way, uh, networking groups get them some of the way. If you want to go the full way, I think it really does kind of come down to personal one-on-one development. There's this idea that when the the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I think when you are ready to stop feeling lonely, those people will show up because you'll just naturally take those actions that will have those people come into your life. I stopped feeling lonely when I started just grabbing coffee with people and not needing anything, right? And that's kind of the second one of, if you don't have a room you can fully trust with people who fully understand your problems and that sort of stuff, I would start just taking actions of trying to converse with people who you think are going through similar things. simple LinkedIn search, ask your existing network already, ask your clients, whatever it may be, and then just not need anything. Hey, do you want to grab a coffee? Hey, do you want to go take a walk at lunch hour? Do you want to, whatever it is? Because the neediness, the attachment to this better payout creates way more desperation, despair, loneliness, whatever you want to call it. When you just stack that and stack that and stack that, just don't be the person who is so needy at the beginning, right? What I have found is if you can just be fully present, enjoy that other person, ask a lot of questions, don't wait for your turn to talk. In my life, in the last 2 years, and so many other people I've helped at this point now, people just go deeper with you. They want to work with you. They I have some people who are reading every single one of my emails right now. Does it matter to me that they're not a client yet? No, not really. Not really. Because I want to work with someone when they are ready, right? So the last email I published, for instance, I said, I'm ready for a new client because I had done the beta testing and the scholarship clients. And now it's time to just choose dope people I want to work with. But I'm not in a hurry for that. And that's another amazing feeling of not feeling lonely. I find loneliness comes a lot from like being hurried and urgent as well. Because if you're constantly in the state of like must do, must do, must do, must do, that you couldn't possibly keep up with all that. In many cases, you're so urgent and busy and all that sort of stuff, you don't actually even know why you're doing it. And then, of course, you're not making time to converse with other people, right? We are on earth to be social with one another, and we are on earth to listen more than we speak. And like so many lonely founders and entrepreneurs just haven't made time for that. They don't have the space to fully trust and tell the full story to someone who understands. And so, yeah, it's crazy lonely. So I hope for you that this video has helped you. It's not insurmountable. If you are feeling lonely, I would just have you ask, like, am I lonely because there's no one around me? Or do I actually have a lot of people around me? I just don't fully trust any of those people. And not because they're bad people, it's just because either you don't want to burden them or they don't understand the problem or whatever it may be. That's okay. You're not a bad person for saying like, oh yeah, I am surrounded by people and I don't think I can trust any of them with the full story. That's okay. It just means that that is something that needs to be prioritized for you, because I can tell you like no amount of business goals, no amount of revenue targets, whatever it may be, is going to solve the loneliness thing. It has to come from being social with people you trust to help you grow, right? I think the most valuable growth I've ever had has come through conversations with other people. They like just by listening to other people's stories, it's shaped my offer. By listening to other people's stories, it has given me more compassion. It has made me more patient. It has made me much more confident and have high conviction in what I do. And there's no business book or no revenue target or no no mastermind that would have yielded that for me. So just ask yourself, am I lonely because I'm actually alone or because I don't fully trust? I think would be the one thing I'd have you walk away with for this video. So thanks for watching, being with me low key for a while. I don't know when I'll be doing the next video, but I know I'll be doing it soon. So if you got value out of this or liked it, feel free to follow along. And then there's plenty of links down in the description as well if you want to learn more about what I do or you want to just see other stuff I make. But until next time, thanks for watching.